69 years ago, all they wanted to do was swim. But a race riot erupted at Fairground Park when whites reacted violently to blacks on the first day of integration at the swimming pool.
5 on your side's Art Holiday reports on a pivotal moment in St. Louis history.
Swimming pools are usually where you go to cool off. But on June 21st, 1949, the heat was on the first day blacks were allowed into municipal pools in St. Louis.
2 days before in Webster Groves, they opened this public swimming pool and denied blacks admission. So a reporter asked Mr. O'Toole, who was the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, are you going to allow blacks to enter the swimming pools on opening day? And he said, well, they have a right to enter those pools just like anybody else.
1949 St. Louis, like much of the nation, was grappling with segregation and the growing civil rights movement. There were protests about white-only lunch counters, segregated schools, and department stores. Black kids just wanted to swim, and when 30 to 40 showed up at the Fairground Park pool,
there was no planning, there was no policy.
All hell broke loose. White youngsters outside the fence shouted threats and obscenities, the prelude to violence.
Thousands of white people gathered in the park, and there were only a handful of black people. So you can imagine how terrifying that was.
News accounts indicate that it took over 400 police officers more than 12 hours to restore order after whites attacked blacks in Fairground Park.
Not guns, but baseball bats, bricks, pipes, and they were attacking blacks with these weapons that they had.
Less than 2 weeks later, Life magazine reported St. Louis's racial strife to the nation.
This event attracted national and international attention. It was the first race riot that was actually happened in St. Louis.
No one died in the riot, but the event shook St. Louis. The St. Louis mayor immediately resegregated all city pools. NAACP President Robert Witherspoon was among those who fought back. A year later, a federal judge ordered St. Louis swimming pools open to all. It was a pivotal moment in St. Louis's racial history.
We kind of ignored the racial problems that we had here in St. Louis. But with the Fairgrounds Park race riot, you couldn't ignore it anymore.
Moore says that historians believe this pivotal event in St. Louis history was a wake-up call that forced city leaders to examine their policies. The Fairground Park riot is documented at the #1 in Civil Rights exhibit at the Missouri History Museum. KSTK is a media sponsor of that exhibit. And many whites boycotted that swimming pool after the race riot, and that historic pool closed in 1955.
It's just amazing. 400 police officers, and I think you said it took 24 hours for the thing to stop?
There were attacks that day and several days afterwards.
Wow.
Art, thank you.